Hi everyone, welcome back to the Anything Club. We haven't posted in a couple of weeks because, we were ill.
And then we were ill again.
And then, I don't know what happened there, but we weren't in the mood to film. I'm not going to lie. We just were feeling a bit rough and it just didn't happen. But we're back.
Yep.
And
we've got an interesting one today, I think.
Yeah, you probably clicked on this video either because you just watch all of them. Not many people do that. Thank you. Or you might have clicked on this because you saw the title and you wanted to know more, or you suffer with this. And that is emetophobia.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of emetophobia, I am going to say there's a trigger warning on this video. If you don't like hearing about emetophobia, please click off. I don't want anyone to get stressed out watching this video. But there you go. There's your trigger warning. But we're going to start talking about it now, so just beware. So, by definition on Google, emetophobia is an extreme fear of vomiting, seeing vomit, watching other people vomit, or even feeling sick or nauseous. Now, this is something that I suffer with. It's undiagnosed, but I am 99% sure that I do suffer with this because of how my fears manifest themselves. And I'm pretty certain I suffer with this.
And I'm here as a bystander to ask the questions and to share my experience of what it's like to live with someone with emetophobia.
Yeah, perfect. So this is coming from both angles. If you're somebody that suffers with emetophobia and you're listening to this, I feel you. If you're somebody who lives with someone who suffers with emetophobia,
I feel you.
Hayley feels you. So firstly, I just want to say that emetophobia manifests itself in so many different ways for different people. Yeah. So for me personally, I have a huge fear of being sick, and therefore I panic about it if I feel sick. So if I feel a little bit nauseous, it could be anything. It could be like I'm in a car and I've just eaten or something, and I'm in the car, and you know when you've just eaten, you're a bit full, and the last thing you need is to be like moving around like that. That's going to make anyone feel a bit nauseous. If that happens to me and I feel a tiny bit nauseous, that'll be it. For the rest of the day, I'll be panicking that I'm going to feel nauseous all day, and then I might be sick, and it's really exhausting. And it's exhausting for whoever you're living with or whoever you're around, because a lot of the time you rely on other people to help rationalise this for you.
I was going to ask, before we get into everything else, how raw do you want to be? Because I don't want to be asking you questions that are going to expose certain things that you don't want to share. Are you happy to?
I think I'm pretty happy for anything to be said in this podcast about emetophobia, to be honest, because I think it's important that people know that it exists and that it's a thing, because I know a lot of the time I've said to people, I'm really scared of throwing up. Like, that is my biggest fear. And then people sort of go, oh yeah, me too. I don't like throwing up either. And I think, okay, you don't understand. Unless you've got emetophobia, you don't understand. So what's your experience? Do you have emetophobia, Hayley? Would you say that you're so scared of throwing up that you would tell people that it's a fear of yours?
No, I don't even think about it. Well, I do think about it a lot, but because of you, not because of me. No, I mean, I don't like being sick. Who does? And I would do what I can to avoid it, and I would have a little bit of fear in me if I sort of felt a bit uneasy and I thought there was a chance. But that's just because it's unpleasant. It's not a nice thing. But no, I do not have an irrational fear. And sometimes, sorry if this makes you feel unwell, but sometimes if I feel unwell, I almost want to be sick so that it can get it out of me, But no, I definitely not after. I didn't even know what emetophobia was until you, actually, and I
didn't know it was a thing. To be honest,
yeah,
I thought I was just really weird, and then I downloaded TikTok back in lockdown,
as most people did, I suppose.
Yeah, and I still use it, but I didn't realise that so many people actually suffer with this, and I didn't realise it had a name, and then I thought, oh, it's emetophobia.
I remember when you first came to me and was like, I've got emetophobia, I know what it is now. Like, you found someone on TikTok and you were like, oh my god, this is exactly what I think you watched some YouTube videos or something. This is exactly what is going on. I've lived with you for 3 years. I've known you for longer than 3 years. I don't remember this always being a thing. I think it's got a lot more frequent and a lot worse for you in the recent 2 years since lockdown, I would say. And how do I say this? It seems to be getting worse rather than better at the moment. That's not to say it won't get better, because you go through ups and downs like anyone with any mental illness. Is it considered a mental illness? Is it considered a mental? I don't like the word mental thing. I don't like the word illness because it's not.
I don't like saying it's an illness either. I just
don't know what the better.
I don't know what to say. It is a mental health issue, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to say
it's it is something that's going on in your brain. It is an irrational fear of something, like any phobia. Arachnophobia. Any phobia.
Yeah,
something
I'm going to call it a phobia. That's what I'm going to call it.
Anything going on in your brain that you're irrationally scared of is considered a phobia, and therefore is some kind of mental issue, I guess.
Okay, back to what I was saying. And now I can use the word phobia because that sounds a little bit more aligned with what it is.
It's in the word.
Emetophobia, yeah, it is. Yeah, when I first met you, it definitely wasn't something that even crossed my mind. When we, the first couple of years of knowing each other, I again wouldn't say I even knew about it. I went on holiday with you. I didn't even...
No. And the reason that you didn't know about it was because either I concealed it well, or because it just didn't happen that often because it wasn't that bad at that time.
Yeah, I travelled for... When we went to Korea and Japan, that was 3 weeks. And
4 weeks, it was a month.
4 weeks, and I don't remember... I mean, there might have been a time we said I feel a bit sick, but I don't remember it being a big deal at all.
No.
And when we first lived together, again, I don't remember it being a big deal. I remember some episodes here and there. But since the last 2 years...
So the pandemic.
Yeah, it's been a whole different situation. It's daily. It's multiple times a day.
Most days. So I will say most days I don't have a full-blown panic attack most days. Like that's probably like a fortnightly occurrence.
Yeah, we can stage how we look at this. If you're talking about, and we'll get to some of the, I don't know if you want to share this, what a panic attack for you looks like with this phobia.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to share
mind.
that. The full-blown extreme end of it, yeah, I would say maybe once a fortnight, maybe even once every 3 weeks when full-blown. But
on a good month, maybe once a month, but it's hard. Sometimes if I'm going through a bad patch, it'll happen several times in the fortnight. Like, you don't know. I don't know.
But I would say it consumes a good portion of each day now. Here and there. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like 4 hours in a period, but over the day
the periods of time don't last that long. But
it is quite frequent.
It's annoying because it impacts daily activities sometimes. Like, I could be out and I'd be absolutely fine. Yeah. And suddenly I'll be like, oh, I feel sick. And then I'll worry about why do I feel sick? Have I eaten something bad? Or have I caught a sickness bug? Why do I feel sick? I shouldn't feel sick. And then if I let it, that's when I start panicking. And that's when it gets worse and worse and worse.
In terms of how it impacts your life, I've got an example. We travelled to London to celebrate my birthday, and there was this particular restaurant that we both absolutely loved, and we've been waiting for however many months to revisit it, haven't we? Years. Yeah. And we were so excited, and it was like my birthday little meal celebration, but for both of us, not just me. And we got there, and it happened to coincide with you having an episode, and that led to it being very rushed, you not eating anything, me eating on my own and having to leave. And I'm not saying oh, poor Hayley. I'm saying that is the reality of it. It can impact literally anything, even if you don't want it to impact that thing. We've been on different holidays where we've had to go back to our room quickly because you don't feel very well, or we've had to, we've been out for the day and again it's been cut short, or we've had to completely divert our plans. It's not a pick and choose thing. It
just happens, and I don't know when it's going to happen. It's some days I will be absolutely fine all day, and I'll think, oh, that's good. We've managed to go the whole day and we've not had it ruined by this. But sometimes it just comes out of nowhere and it just ruins everything, and it's just so annoying because I always feel like I'm ruining it for everyone else. I've been with Hayley when it's happened, I've been with my family when it's happened, and it's just so annoying to be the one that you feel like you're ruining everyone's day. And I desperately don't want that to be the case. And I know obviously there's options for therapy. Unless I go through the NHS and join the very long waiting list, I can't really afford that right now, so that's not an option in my head right now, but that is an option in the future, I think, for that's like my goal for the future. So right now, to cope with it, I have been listening to a few podcasts of other people that suffer with it and how they deal with it, and that helps me a little bit. And I don't know, I think right now it's just finding the way that I can cope with it the best.
It's more like a day-to-day thing right now,
getting through each day without having a panic attack, which sounds like no way to live. And I promise you, I'm not like missing out on things because of it.
You're not staying indoors every day all day. Some days you decide you'd rather not do things because you're having a bad day.
But you know, for the most part,
you live a normal life.
For the most part, I'm living a normal life. It's not, I wouldn't say that I don't do stuff because of it. I wouldn't say that I don't see friends or family or whatever because of it. Like, it's not that bad yet. And I hope it never does get to that. But yeah, I think what would be the next logical step is to talk about what you said. Like, how does this, as bad as it gets, the panic attack stage, how does that show in me? Like, what happens to me? What would you say? Well, from an onlooker's point of view, what does it look like when I'm having one of my episodes?
So it's a very staged thing. It depends sort of where the dart hits, I suppose, as to how bad it is. But it normally begins as you telling me normally I feel a bit sick, and you look a bit fearful and you look a bit stressed out, and you know, you can say I feel a bit sick. And sometimes it can sort of stop there, and we have interventions that we do, and we can get onto them in a minute, stuff that we, you know, that helps you. If you can't then satisfy, or I can't satisfy that you're okay, it can then go on to the next stage, and that's more of a panic, sometimes a half cry, if you will, like I feel sick, like, you know,
like what's going to happen, what's going on.
I'm not saying you cry, but like it is that fear in your eyes that you're going to cry. And that gets a little bit more serious because you start getting a bit red, a bit panicked, a bit like can't concentrate on anything. The next stage is the one that bothers me the most and upsets me the most to see you in, which is when you literally don't know what to do. Again, trigger warnings on this bit, that you resort to physical touch that will help you divert your mind. So instead of feeling sick, you'll scratch and you'll like pinch yourself, scratch yourself across your back, normally across your lower back and across like your hands, as hard as you can, often just so you can feel something different to feeling sick. I mean,
yeah, I think that is a big trigger warning, not just for people with emetophobia, but for people with who have self-harmed before. Because in a way, I mean, I've never self-harmed in the traditional sense of self-harming, but in a way, you know, like, people say they self-harm sometimes just to take the pain away from what it is they're so down about. They try and hurt themselves because it to feel something else, to take that pain away.
And I never understood why people would ever hurt themselves.
Neither did I.
Until you just did it randomly, and I was like, I understand now.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't. I mean, who am I to talk? But I still don't have that understanding of why people would hurt themselves when they're, you know, feeling so depressed.
It's to feel something else.
It's to feel something else.
It's to feel something.
Yeah, and I didn't understand that fully until I started doing this, and I thought to myself, wait, this is kind of like self-harming if you think about it, because I'm panicking so much and I'm worried about what I'm feeling sick, so much that I need something to distract myself from it. And the only thing I can think of right now is to scratch myself and make that hurt so I'm not thinking about feeling sick. And it's terrible. That's a really bad thing to do.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult for an onlooker, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I'm going to say the word brunt, and I don't mean this badly, but I think I get the brunt of it because you open up to me, you're vulnerable to me, and I'm with you all the time. Whereas your friends and most of your family probably don't see this side of you because they see you when you're okay in your mindset that you're going out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I see you all the time, therefore I'm going to see the bad and the good. And for someone that cares about you, it's awful to see that. And sometimes I have to literally resort to, this sounds awful, like holding your hand so tightly that you physically can't do that. Or giving you my hand to scratch instead, which obviously you don't like to do. But you know, on occasion you don't
let
realise.
Me squeeze your hand, don't you?
Yeah, and sometimes you're squeezing my hand and I'm like, oh God, my fingers are about to break. But you don't realise it. You're not doing it on purpose. And you, as soon as you realise, you like let go, obviously. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is it's so powerful in your mind that you don't realise what you're doing, and you don't realise like how you've had these panic attacks when I've been asleep, I suppose, sometimes, and then in the morning, you know, I've seen your back and it's covered in scratches. I'm like, what on earth have you done? And it's because of the result of this.
And I didn't want to wake you up.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. I think the main struggle that I have, and obviously this is not as bad as what you have to go through, but I'm someone that really requires my sleep, and I'm not really the healthiest nor happiest person if I get disturbed sleep or if I don't sleep very well. And I think that's how it affects me the most, is when it interrupts my sleep.
Yeah, because the problem is as well, in the way this interacts with both of us, is that you need your sleep, and if you don't get your sleep, or you've got broken sleep, or you're not well rested, you then suffer with your own problems, you know, mentally.
Yeah,
because
I'm not a nice
you
person
then get you get really down, and that's your problem. Like, that's not something I struggle with personally, but this is my struggle.
Yeah.
Your struggle is something different, but it's affected by how much sleep you get a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then when you don't get sleep because of what I'm struggling with, it's just like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I'm just someone that needs sleep. You know, some people can have interrupted sleep or sleep a couple of hours a night and be okay. That's not me. I wish it was, but it's really not. And the reality is I have to take my sleep seriously and make sure I sleep a decent amount each night that's uninterrupted where possible. Obviously, there's going to be sometimes.
And it's not like you just get tired, is it?
No,
You are extremely tired.
I can't stay awake.
No.
And my legs ache, and that's a whole different podcast.
In fact, we should do a podcast on your many symptoms of being tired.
Yeah, so that's where it affects me the most, because I wouldn't say I'm nasty when I haven't slept, or like
I'm a bit more snappy.
I'm a bit more snappy, but I think the point is that in order to be my happiest and most productive and just all round healthy self, I need sleep. Therefore, when my sleep is interrupted for something that, well, anything really, including, you know, you having an episode, that's where it affects me the most.
Understandable.
And there's been times on your worst nights where, you know, we've not slept until, let's say, midnight, let's say 1 a.m. Just for example, I'm not saying that's exactly the time, because you felt unwell, and then we go to sleep, and then an hour later, you've had to wake me up because you don't feel very good. You're panicking, and then I've had to get up, get you drink, and get you some of these devices that help you, which we'll get onto in a minute. I don't want to share what they are right now. And then we've been up for another 45 minutes, then we've got to sleep, and then maybe even one more time. Yeah. Like it's tough.
Sometimes on really bad nights, it just won't give up. Like the nauseousness just won't give up. And it's hard because with a mental issue, it can feel so real that it can really feel physical. And I truly believe that I actually do feel sick. Because I feel sick in my tummy. Like when I move, I feel more sick, and the thought of eating makes me feel sick, and you know, anything like movement, or I don't know, but it's really physical, and that's what's crazy because it's so powerful. It makes it's not just in my head thinking, oh, I feel sick. It translates to really physical symptoms.
I think if you tell yourself anything enough times, you do physically feel anything, don't you? Yeah. And I think that's what's hard as well. Like as someone that doesn't have it, and having experienced hundreds of episodes now with you, I know very, very well what you're displaying isn't, you know, unless the 0.0 blah 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 isn't going to develop into you vomiting.
I mean,
therefore,
have I ever actually vomited from any of my episodes?
No. I've never seen you be sick ever.
I know that, and I know.
I don't think you've been sick since you were like 9 years old or something.
I mean, I have, but it's self-inflicted.
So
as
once
in from
at uni,
alcohol,
maybe.
But yeah, that was terrible, and I was on my own. But I was, to be honest with you, I don't really remember, so it didn't really affect me that much. But since that happened, and I knew I had thrown up because I drank, I haven't drank since, really.
And I think that's why it's so tough, is because I don't want to sound insensitive, so it's really difficult how to say this, but when things that we're looking forward to and our daily plans and things that I want to get done in a day and all of that stuff, and holidays get interrupted because of this phobia that you have, yet I know that it's not going to develop. It's really hard because sometimes I want to shake you and just be like, not just get over it, but this, like, look at the past. This isn't going anywhere. This is just in your head. Can we please move on and get on with our day? It's tough when I've not got this thing, but yet my days are very much affected. Like, it's like I've got it. Do you know what I mean? But I know you can't help it, and I'm not saying it in an insensitive way. I'm just sharing that it's...
You're sharing what it's like for somebody who's living with someone who's living with it. It's hard, and I get that. But it's just so difficult to control it and rationalise it sometimes. Sometimes I'm better than others. I think we went through a period a few weeks ago where I went a whole week with being like, I'm not going to lie, I did feel sick at times, and I was starting to think, oh God. But...
You did really well,
I dealt with it, and I tried to not even tell Hayley when I felt sick until it got worse, and it never got worse. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad I dealt with it so well myself.
Let's talk about that, actually, because what's going on here? With this phobia, you've not had to, but you've relied on me to help you a lot. And I think that's because of lockdown, and we're now trying to get you out of that. Do you want to just talk about...
Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. So when I was about 8, 9, I had my very first episode of this, and I'm pretty sure it was around when I was 8 or 9. I was so panicked. I felt sick. I wasn't ill, but I was so panicked, and I was starting to scratch myself, and my mum was thinking, what's going on here? In the end, we were up all night. My mum had to call the doctor to come round in the middle of the night to see me and check me over, because my mum was concerned about why I was feeling like this, because my temperature was fine. Like, I was fine, but I was panicking so much, and my mum had probably never seen a panic attack in her life. So that was what was happening. The doctor came. Basically, the result of that was the doctor said, "Oh, try not to eat after 6 o'clock in the evening, because it might make your tummy feel a bit funny. Might be setting off your sugar levels a bit funny and things like that." That was how it was left, and that was... Doctor left, I was fine. I was fine when the doctor left, went back to sleep. It didn't happen again for a few months. Then we went to the US, and we stayed there. We used to go for a month at a time, and I went there, and I remember the entire time I was there, I barely ate, because I felt sick all the time.
Really?
And I was scratching my head. If you look at any pictures of me from that holiday, I've got scratches on my head where I've, like, lifted the skin, and it's scabbed over. And I remember we always would be sitting at the tables at the restaurants, and I would sit there with nothing because I felt sick, and I lost loads of weight that holiday. And my mum was a bit concerned. I spent a lot of the time asleep, and...
Probably because you're so tired from not eating.
From being exhausted and not eating. Because this is exhausting. This problem is exhausting. Anyway, my mum sort of put that down to maybe I had a bit of sunstroke from the beginning of the holiday, which is possible. Maybe that's why I felt so tired. But that came and went. But I noticed from that point on, since then, since maybe being about 11 years old, 10 years old, it's just gotten progressively worse. And now I'm 25, nearly 26, and I think it's as bad as it's ever been. And that's because I haven't intervened early enough. If I had recognised that this is what I have, this is what I need to do to help it, I need therapy, I need to get out of this mindset now, nip it in the bud, then maybe I wouldn't be suffering so much now. But the problem is I didn't recognise what it was that I had wrong with me until about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And by that point it got bad enough. So I recognise I need therapy or I need to find methods of coping with it that work every time, that I can deal with on my own without the need of help from somebody else.
Yeah, so what happened regarding lockdown?
So with lockdown, so I ended up relying a lot on Hayley being there. So if I felt a bit nauseous, I felt comfortable and comforted by the fact that I could just say to Hayley, "Oh, I feel a bit sick." We'd do our little interventions and I'd be okay. And then that would happen every single time. Hayley would always be there because we were together all the time because of lockdown. So now we're coming out the other side of lockdown. I'm spending more time away from Hayley. It's really hard, and it's a shock to my system because I don't have someone there all the time to just help me quickly and sort it out.
And it's difficult on text, isn't it? And I'm not always available. And
I'm on my own way more now. Not on my that much, but I'm on my own way more now, and it means I've got to deal with it on my own, and that's why it gets worse, because I can't deal with it on my own a lot of the time. So I've become really reliant on having someone there over lockdown. So lockdown really hasn't helped me. And I didn't recognise that really until the last few weeks. I've just thought, oh, it's probably because of lockdown. I'm probably struggling so much because of this. But I think we're rambling on a bit, but I do want to touch on my coping mechanisms because it might help someone maybe who suffers with this, who needs to hear how somebody else deals with this. And if you are watching this on the off chance and you suffer with emetophobia, please comment down below your coping mechanisms, because I will try anything at this point. Like I want as many things in my arsenal as possible to help me deal with it, preferably to help you deal with it on your own. I don't want to have to rely on someone else, and I'll share mine with you. So this is going to sound really weird, and this is, every time I've told somebody about this, they're like, what? That's so strange. But my number one thing that helps me is eating ginger. Ginger is known to be an anti-nausea food. People who are pregnant, who have morning sickness, tend to have ginger, but they tend to have like ginger teas and like ginger-based
you
things.
bypassed all of that.
I bypassed that. Just doesn't work. And I literally peel the skin off a piece of raw ginger and I just nibble on the raw ginger. And it is not pleasant, but I've grown to be able to deal with it. It's not really that big of a deal
You
anymore.
just eat it like it's French fries now.
Yeah, I can just eat ginger and my mouth's on fire, don't get me wrong, but I don't mind it. I've gotten used to it now. But that's the number one thing that helps me. And I know it's an anti-nauseating food. I know it's meant to, like, when it hits your stomach, it's meant to like level out your, whatever, in your tummy. But to be honest with you, the second it touches my lips, the second it gets into my mouth, mentally something changes, and most of the time I feel less sick straight away. And I'm fully aware that that's a mental shift, not a physical shift, because it wouldn't possibly hit my system that quick before I've even eaten it. And
that's often the thing, that if I'm woken up in the night, that's what I have to do. I have to get out of bed and go and cut you ginger.
Before we get into bed, we make sure I've got a little chunk of ginger next to me on my bedside table. A lot of the time I don't touch it, which is great, but it's there if I need it, and that's what I turn to before I wake up Hayley.
So we get through a lot of ginger.
We do. We can't, you can't go to a food shop without getting a big bit of ginger just in case. So that's my main thing. And I take it out with me in my bag in case something happens when I'm on my own, and that's the first thing I reach for. Another thing that I do kind of obsessively is take my temperature.
Oh, my days.
So I've got my little thermometer that I take with me pretty much everywhere, and I've got it beside my bed, and I just take my temperature because for some reason in my head it computes as, if I don't have a temperature, I must not be ill. I mustn't have a sickness bug.
You take your temperature so many times, and it's good because it's a quick and easy coping mechanism. I'm not saying it's
harming
bad.
anyone. It's not harming anyone. I'm just quickly doing that.
No, it's
I'm
mad.
fine.
I don't know how we've not got 3 more thermometers. The problem with this one that I found recently is that as summer approaches and as the temperature gets hotter generally, there's sun coming through the windows now. We've had our heating on when it's been colder. Is that if you take your temperature and you happen to be even 0.1 over what you consider your baseline, that then exaggerates and escalates you into a almost panic attack, because then you're like, I must be ill. And you do my temperature again probably as many times as you do your temperature, because you like to know that
what's normal.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm quite a cold person, so sometimes your body temperature would have gone up a little bit just because it's warm in the house. Mine wouldn't have, just because I'm quite cold as a person. And then that doesn't help, because then you're like, oh my god, you're not sick, I'm sick, I've got a high temperature, full-blown panic attack. So it's like good and bad. It's a way that you can cope, but only if you get the reading that you want.
And I just keep doing it until I get the reading that I want. Oh, it's so hard, because
it's funny talking about it, actually, because it's so serious in the moment, but yet when you talk about it, you're like...
It sounds silly. I know, I'm fully aware it does. I know it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, taking my temperature is something that helps me.
Recently, you've decided that you're going to become a full-blown pharmacy.
And... So, yeah, recently I've got myself a blood pressure machine, a pulse oximeter, my thermometer. I've got a blood glucose machine, but that's kind of unrelated. But yeah, I've decided I was thinking about getting a stethoscope, but I'm not going to go that far.
God. As soon as if you're indoors, as soon as you start feeling a little bit sick, you will firstly turn to your thermometer. That would be your number one. If you can sort of satisfy that, you sometimes
because I don't want to have ginger.
No. Then sometimes it will be ginger next. But if you're at home, you will proceed through doing your temperature probably 300 times and mine 200 times. And then you will proceed to take your blood oxygen and your pulse, which somehow tells you whether you're sick or not. I don't know.
It doesn't. It's just I'm a bit of a hypochondriac anyway, so just being able to settle that I've got enough oxygen, especially when I'm having a bit of a panic, it feels like you can't get enough oxygen.
That's true.
And when I can clearly see that it says, don't worry, you're like fine, you've got 99% oxygen levels, then I'm like, okay, I mustn't actually be struggling for breath. It's just, I'm just panicking.
And then you'll go on to your blood pressure, which is probably the last resort because it takes a little bit of time. It's not a quick, it has to read it. And then you'll normally move on to your ginger. And
ginger comes before the blood pressure and the oximeter, I think.
Quite often before all that, you'll come to me and you'll just say,
what helps as well is if Hayley tickles my hand, because it takes my mind somewhere else. Even if you talk to me, distract me, tickle my back, tickle my feet, tickle my hand, anything like that, just to distract my mind onto something else. I sound like a nightmare.
Sometimes when we've been up in the middle of the night and, it's been 45 minutes and you're still not settled, sometimes and I'm exhausted at this point, sometimes I have to result in literally talking about anything. I'm like, so let's talk about Emmerdale, and then if that doesn't work, I'm like, so if you had to redecorate this room right now, what colour would you paint that wall over there? And for some reason, sometimes this then works and you can start calming down. But it's tough. You have to be ready to go all the time with questions.
I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean like that. I'm just, and you're saying that this helps you. So it's good to, know what helps you, I suppose.
Okay, well, I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. I've shared my experience with it. Please share yours down below. If you know anyone that's got emetophobia or anything like that, pop it down below. It'd be really good for me to see other, just know that I'm not on my own. I mean, I know I'm not on my own because I've seen on TikTok and everywhere that there's so many people that have this, and they all say their experiences are a bit different. Let me know how you cope with it. Have you got any suggestions? I know that exposure therapy is supposed to be really good, making yourself watch people be sick is disgusting.
Hang on. Can we just talk about that quickly? When we were in Thailand, I got a food poisoning bug that was really awful. It had got into my system somewhere that they don't usually, and it was making me vomit so much. And I had to end up going to hospital. And you were with me, and you had to deal with that. How?
I didn't go near you though. I didn't go near. I was terribly worried about Hayley.
I was ill
because she was not in a good way, and I've never seen her look so ill or weak, and she just couldn't do anything. And I felt fine, but obviously I was then worried. We didn't know at this point whether she'd eaten something funny, and luckily I hadn't eaten what she'd eaten that day, so I couldn't have got whatever it was she got if it was food poisoning. But I didn't know if it was a bug. I didn't know if it was something that was going around. And I thought any minute now I could be in the exact same position with my head down the toilet, and I would have to go to hospital. Anyway, I pulled through. I took you to hospital. I called the taxi. I got us another night or two in the hotel just so you could recover. And I did all the stuff at the hospital, and it was fine. And I looked after you, and it all ended up okay. But the panic that I felt until the moment that I knew that the doctor had said it's a bug. It's like a parasite something you've eaten because of vegetables that weren't washed properly. Until that moment, I was so anxious, and it was when he said that I just felt, thank God.
But I think what I'm trying to get at is that is in a way exposure therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the room when you were being sick. When she was being sick, I had to shut the bathroom door and do this and go la 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 like that, because I didn't want to hear the retching. I didn't want to hear anything because that would make me feel really ill. But I knew that I had to help her because nobody else was there. I was
passing out, and it was just awful.
Anyway, that was fine. But where was I going with what I was saying? Oh yeah, I just wanted to, right at the end of this podcast, I just wanted to say a few things, just to give you, if you don't suffer from this, but you possibly maybe might be around someone with this one day. Just a list of things not to say, around people that suffer with this.
I've probably said most of them in this podcast, haven't I?
No, No, not in this situation.
Am I an okay ally for you?
Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, good.
But people who don't understand emetophobia often say these things and don't realise the impact of it. So they might say, oh, I feel a bit sick. And then, as you can imagine, if you suffer with emetophobia, you're thinking, oh my God, why do you feel sick? Like, and you can't start questioning this stranger, like why they feel sick, or your work colleague, if they don't know about it, because that's just so annoying. Like, well, you're not going to do that. So if somebody says they feel sick, if somebody says, oh, my kid has got a sickness bug, and I'm thinking, well, why are you here standing next to me then? Because I don't want it. And if they say, oh, there's something going around, like a sickness bug going around, oh, it's a nightmare, great, thanks. Or, oh, it was, are you sure that was cooked? Are you sure that chicken was cooked? Are you sure those prawns weren't cold inside? Great. Because all of these things I'm just going to start worrying about big time. Or for me, if somebody says they feel really sick for an unrelated reason, like they're in a car, they feel motion sick, I start panicking because I'm sat next to them, not because I think I'm going to catch it, it's because I don't want them to be sick in front of me, because that will make me feel very, very ill. And therefore I'll start panicking. So anything like that, like remotely suggesting that you feel sick, it's not that I don't care about you and that I want you to feel sick and not tell me about it. It's that understand the effects it has on somebody who is really scared, because that can ruin everything that for that person that day. Like, I've had people at work tell me that they feel sick, and for the rest of the day I felt sick and I've been worried, and it's really, really quite exhausting. It's making sure that restaurants you go to are good restaurants, and I will not eat meat in any restaurant that I haven't already had meat at and been fine, that I haven't heard really good reviews about, that hasn't got like 5-star reviews. I won't eat any street food that's meat based in case they haven't cooked it right. Anything like that, it's exhausting, isn't it? But anyway, that's just what I wanted to end this on. Just things that you should maybe think about not saying, or think about how you're saying it or how you're putting it across to somebody that suffers with it, if you know about it.
You know, this is kind of like therapy in a way, and doing this actually might help you.
Maybe, because it's making me realise once again that it's irrational and that it's
No, but it's irrational in terms of, it's not actually happening, but it's, you're feeling something valid. You can't just
It's valid. It is valid. It's like any mental health problems, that it's valid. It's valid. It's just about how you cope with it.
Don't push yourself in the corner about it, like it's real in your head, and that's all that matters. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, so thank you so much for listening to this really long video. I think it was really, really long. Yeah. But I'm glad I've got it off my chest. I'm glad you guys know about it and maybe can offer any advice or anything like that. So please comment down below if you can help in any way. Or just comment and give me your thoughts on it.
We'll try to be better with the comments, because we've not been great.
It's really hard. We've got 3 channels to contend with. Anyway, thank you for listening and or watching, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you next week. Don't know what about, but we'll see you next week.
We'll think of a topic, maybe a bit of a happier one next time.
Yeah,
and then
a nice one.
We'll share my sleep stories.
Yeah, we should actually, because that means give Hayley the limelight next time.
All right, okay. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.